A tropical disturbance in the central Caribbean could become the next named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. Great to see you on a Tuesday. Hope things are well. Coming up in this video, we'll talk about some of the active weather we've seen across our area for today. Some areas of heavy rain and some gusty winds. I'll have the latest on what's happening with Debby eking its way off the United States East Coast, some of the very heavy rain it's going to bring. And then we're going to deep dive into this tropical disturbance in the central Caribbean, how it will progress west and get stronger as we go deeper into the week and into the weekend. You know, I'd love to hear from you. Drop it in the comments section below where you're viewing from, what the weather has been like. That really helps out our Meteo Mundo weather community, gives a real sense of what's really going on in your area. So I appreciate it. Let's start off. We'll kind of work our way from east to west for today. We've got a relatively quiet day on our eastern side here for the Lesser Antilles, but there's a few more tropical waves here in the Atlantic Basin. That's going to bring better rain chances coming up. And, you know, we'll look at the forecast as well. But on this Tuesday afternoon, we've had a few passing showers, a little isolated storm. You can see the lightning count there. It's low, but a little bit of rain and storms for places like St. Lucia, parts of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Barbados might have caught in a brief shower. Same thing for Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago as well. Look, they're not going to be very widespread, okay? You know, not the entire island is going to get some of this, but we've had a few showers in the Windward Islands for today. No big breezy conditions. Again, the wind gusts are on the screen, but we don't have any of those displaying right now. Some of this moisture is going to try and work its way to places like Nueva Esparta and the northern coastline of Venezuela. You can see some of that activity there on the visible satellite. It has been great to read the comments the last couple of days about the rain that we've had in the ABC Islands. Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, an area that has been just exceptionally dry overall the last several months. Caught some of this heavier rain as this disturbance moved by. It's going to start to dry out. I'll be honest with you guys, that axis of richest moisture is now off towards your west. So I hope you got enough, at least for the short term. But as another tropical wave comes in late this week, our rain chances will go higher there as well. When you get north of St. Lucia today in the Lesser Antilles, Martinique, Dominica, Guadeloupe, Montserrat, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Bartholomew, Anguilla, Saba, places like that, St. Martin. It's just been relatively drier for today. Again, have we had a brief passing shower? It's possible, but we haven't really had much for today. It's been a relatively beautiful Tuesday afternoon here. The winds are freshening up through the U.S. and British Virgin Islands and portions of Puerto Rico. Again, relatively dry here. Road Town, Tortola, St. Thomas, St. John, St. Croix off the coastline, Vieques and Culebra. Just starting to see a few isolated showers and storms pop up over the mainland right here. You can see those kind of developing in places like Ponce, Uti Alto, trying to kind of drift, if you will, into the central portions of the island. Barranquilletes, maybe on over towards San Juan, but generally speaking, these will pop up very quickly with the heat of the day like we're seeing, and then they'll come back down. A little bit of lightning to go along with this, and we've had some gusty winds for today, mainly, of course, that are going to be generally out of the east, but as that thunderstorm moved through Ponce, you can see their wind direction actually turned a bit to the north with those thunderstorms, but they've also been up to around 30 miles an hour, so it's been a breezy day. Few pop-up storms here through portions of the Dominican Republic and Haiti as well. What do you say we take a look at what it really feels like outside in this area? Again, we're roasting, guys, and so many of you have commented about how hot it's been without the rain. Feels like temperatures easily 105, 110, 115. Again, 110 Fahrenheit in Santo Domingo gets you to 43.3 degrees Celsius. 115 south and east of the city gets you up to 45, 46 degrees Celsius. It's a rough day. These isolated storms will cool things down just a little bit. We've had a few brief showers trying to develop in the Turks and Caicos for today, but it's been hot. We're getting those storms like we typically see right now in the eastern side of Cuba, but look how hot it's been there. Same thing for my friends in Jamaica for today. Again, Kingston's feels like number above 110. Montego Bay's feels like temperature was well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And again, storms have developed along the western portions of the island, just like they did yesterday. Kind of Trelawney, but generally St. James and St. Elizabeth parishes on over towards Westmoreland and Hanover. Those are the areas with the best chance for a few storms later today. Could we get a couple to develop in the central or the eastern portion of the island as well? Could Kingston and Old Harbor have an opportunity for some rain? It's possible, but Generally speaking, these are going to be very isolated for now, okay? But more moisture coming in with this disturbance will feed in better rain chances for Jamaica starting tomorrow. Same thing for our friends in the Cayman Islands. Now, where it has been wet is obviously closer to this disturbance. Look at all of the showers and storms. Now, again, it's located here, but we are seeing an elongated area of storms developing through the Southwest Caribbean. It's been wet for Panama, Costa Rica, and you can see the development area in yellow. And of course, we're going to deep dive into this disturbance later in the video, but a 30% chance. And if we follow this area, this would be certainly directly impacting Central America and the Yucatan for the next several days ahead, and potentially into portions of the Gulf of Mexico as we get into the weekend and early next week. For my friends in the Bahamas, especially for the northern sides of the Bahamas, we are getting a few storms developing. Now it's dry, generally central and southeast sides of the Bahamas. What's been happening is on the very far southern edge of Debby, we've had a little bit of moisture dive back down for Walker's Key and Grand Bahama and Bimini and Abaco, New Providence and Eleuthera and Andros, all with opportunities for some storms. What do you say we throw on the radar here? Put that on for you. I'll drop off the satellite data, and you can see they're slow moving, kind of drifting from west to east and also building off towards the south. So we've had some decent rain over San Andros and Andros Town. We're getting some of that right now over places like Nassau and Old Fort Bay and kind of just across the entire island. Cable Beach, Paradise Island. Again, fairly slow moving. It's relatively light here in New Providence right now, but you know, we've had some lightning strikes, nothing too beefy out there. It's a lot more covered up right now over Abaco. Some of the storms have drifted across Grand Bahama as well, and Walker's Key has had a few showers and storms, and notice the winds. I can tell you, living in Florida, it's been an extremely blustery day behind Debby. But what's going on with Debby right now, unfortunately, is exactly what we thought was going to be happening. Debby has put on the brakes, and it's basically sitting right along the coastline of Georgia near Savannah. I want you to notice this radar loop here, friends. The storm is not moving. I've seen some reports here between Savannah and Charleston of already around 10 inches of rain, and there's a lot more to come. Again, Debby should drift off the coastline, which is bad news because now there's more latent heat energy to kind of pump up more tropical storms, right? More heavier tropical downpours and feed those in to southern North Carolina, Georgia, and then wrap back around South Carolina, wrap back around to Georgia as well. Want to see a neat little trick? We can actually take a look at the latest advisory together for us here. So this is the 5 o'clock advisory. Just a couple of things to point out here. It's a weak tropical storm. Winds are 40 miles an hour. Again, look at the movement, guys. East-northeast at 3 miles an hour. Some of the things I want to mention, and you know, there's watches and warnings, and if you live in these areas, you need to check in on that, but the hazards here. Still looking at a storm surge, and we'll look at that as well, but those rainfall totals, 10 to 20 inches or up to 25 in a couple of spots. So that's, again, 1 to 2 feet, 12 to 24 inches in some areas. Again, still historical, still extremely catastrophic rainfall is likely here to go along with all of the winds as well. Speaking of the rain, we'll take a look at that. This is on the GFS model, and we'll zoom back in for us here. And again, this is not taking into account what has already fallen. This is what could still fall. And you're looking at rainfall totals here on the GFS model for portions of Georgia, again, that are pinging above a foot of rain more. So if we've already had 8 to 10 and we add on another 12 to 14, you are getting into the lower 20s in inches. This is a exceptionally serious flooding situation. Southeast Georgia, portions of South Carolina, even a little bit farther inland as well, and then far southern sides of North Carolina. Please check in with your local officials, but you can see the very slow and erratic track of Debby. Speaking of the storm surge, excuse me, I got a little something in my eye. For the Georgia coastline, it's 1 to 3 feet. From the Savannah River in South Carolina up to Cape Fear, North Carolina, that's 2 to 4. So how about getting 20 inches of rain along the coast and also having a 2 to 4 foot storm surge? It's Again, a very serious situation for these areas. And then 1, 2, 3 from Cape Fear up towards Cape Lookout as a highest storm surge there. Okay, friends, we're going to get into our forecast here. A couple of things. First of all, I want to thank everyone for the support. We need to keep growing here at Meteo Mundo. It's as simple as that. And there's a few things that you can easily do to really help support the channel and keep us going. First thing you can do is just like this video, okay? And then leave a comment below. Those two things help us out more than you could even imagine, because it ups the engagement, and then more people who don't even know we exist will see our videos on their home pages here on YouTube. So thank you for liking the video. Thank you for leaving a comment below as well. And of course, if you're watching this and you're getting anything out of it, thank you for clicking that subscribe button here at Meteo Mundo. And of course, all the other ways that you guys have been so generously supporting me here on the channel. So now it's forecast time. We're going to get into the island by island forecast over the next several days, and then we'll get into what's going on with our spot here. So I'm going to bring back on our model. We're going to loop this up. First of all, I want you to notice again, we're going to continue to see more tropical moisture move in from east to west. All right. We'll also, of course, see the potential development of this area, which is going to bring more heavy rain to portions of Central America and into the southwest Gulf of Mexico, of course, crossing the Yucatan, and still some decent shower activity for portions of the Bahamas as well. So I do want to, again, just talk about here before I switch over to the NAM model, that the GFS has some rain for the Windward Islands, but it's still underdoing it a bit. It does gather a bit more late in the period, but there could be some fairly significant rain with this next tropical wave coming in on Friday for portions of South America and the Lesser Antilles in general. As it has been, generally the farther south that you live on the island chain, the better chance that you have for more significant rain. Am I concerned about any flooding at this point in time? At this point in time, no, but it bears monitoring, that's for sure. So let me make sure that I actually have my time frames correctly here instead of reversing them. And then we're going to take a look at the NAM model, because that one's just had a little bit better hold on at least the initial development of these tropical waves, and especially its impact for the Lesser Antilles. The GFS has just kind of been underdoing it a bit, to be quite honest. So again, we've already mentioned the showers here through portions of the Windward Islands. It's still going to be blustery. We're still going to have our strong easterly winds. These are going to be fast-moving showers for Martinique and Dominica, Guadeloupe and Montserrat, Antigua, Barbuda, Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Bartholomew. Rain chances overall will just go higher and higher between now and Friday. All right, probably dropping off a bit for the weekend, but we'll see how it plays out. And again, this is going to help the heat for sure. Rain chances will then spread higher as you go further off towards the west. So the U.S. and British Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, rain chances again going higher and higher. Same thing for our friends in Hispaniola. So for San Juan and Santo Domingo, just expect those chances to go up, especially towards the end of the week. We'll continue to see our localized storms in Cuba, but they'll be high enhanced, if you will, by this tropical moisture. We're going to see a little bit more rain for the Turks, the Caicos, and portions of the central and southeast Bahamas, but they're going to kind of miss the richest moisture. And then up towards the northwest side of the Bahamas, again, we're still going to have a south flow, which is going to try and pull in more moisture on the south side of Debby. And it is an influence enough, if you will, where I think just like today, if I zoom this back out, again, Debby's not moving. This is such a huge problem for coastal Georgia and South Carolina. I can't, emphasize that enough. For our friends in the northwest Bahamas, we still feed in enough moisture to have rain breaking out. There'll be some, breezy, squally conditions from time to time, but it's a better chance for rain here in the northwest Bahamas. But you get a little bit farther south, and you're not going to be as influenced as much. So let's take a look at, again, the southwest side of the Caribbean, and we're going to get more into the development possibility of this after we look at our island by island rain chance. But just to highlight again, obviously, as this progresses west and has an opportunity to develop, which is a 30% chance from the hurricane center, regardless of development, it's going to bring ample tropical moisture to all of Central America and the Yucatan. It's going to get wet. There will be a flood potential, a flash flood potential, landslides, mudslides. It'll be very area dependent, but it's not going to be getting any drier in these areas. On the northern side of this, we should spiral in more rain across Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. It's not going to be consistent rain, but it will be kind of squally weather. This should come with some decent winds out of the east to southeast for Kingston and Montego Bay and Negril and Grand Cayman and Little Cayman and Cayman Brac. So rain chances improve here with some stronger winds coming along for the ride as well. So that's kind of the general view of the rain chances over the next few days. Let's take a look at it for you island by island. Again, for the Northwest Bahamas, 40% chance for tomorrow. As Debby slowly pulls away Thursday, Friday, rain chances go down just a little bit. It'll be more isolated in nature for the central and southeast Bahamas just overall. Same thing for our friends in the Turks and the Caicos. They'll pull a 40% chance on Friday. Cuba's rain chances stay relatively elevated. It's not as high as it's been, but a 50 to 60% chance. Cayman Islands rain chances, after still being relatively dry for tomorrow, they'll begin to improve Thursday and Friday as that disturbance gets closer and tries to just get a little bit more organized as well. Belize City, 40% chance the next few days, but 60 on Friday and going up from there for the weekend. Cancun and Cozumel's rain chances will also begin to get more elevated late into the weekend and early next week. For Jamaica, 50 to 60% chance the next couple days. Kind of probably the best chance Thursday, with the closest approach with that disturbance, but still, even as that disturbance pulls away, a 50% chance on Friday. Then the next tropical wave that I mentioned starts to move through the eastern sides of the Caribbean. So the Dominican Republic's rain chances go higher, especially Thursday and Friday. Puerto Rico's rain chances really go up Thursday, Friday as well. And you're going to see that same scenario for the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Bermuda, I'll keep an eye on for you for maybe some fringe effects on the eastern side of Debby. But right now, doesn't expect to see a lot of rain even from Debby because it's moving more north rather than east. But could you catch a few on the eastern side? It's possible. Anguilla, 30% chance for tomorrow, 50-60 Thursday, Friday. St. Kitts and Nevis, here come these rain chances higher. Now again, on the northern side, these are more kind of quick hitting passing showers, okay? Antigua, Barbuda, Montserrat, Guadeloupe, Dominica. We get Martinique, but especially St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines South, the rain chances aren't much higher than our northern friends, but the quality of moisture is better, so the heavier rain potential is elevated for St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Again, I'm not concerned about any flooding right now, but that's something I'll keep an eye on here over the next couple of days. But there should be more rain overall the farther south that you go. So Barbados rain chances after being pretty much dry tomorrow, 50% chance on Friday. Grenada gets up to a 60. Trinidad and Tobago goes up, and you can see even higher rain chances for Suriname and Guyana. Nueva Esparta will start to catch some showers late Friday. I expect you to have a better chance on Saturday. In the ABC Islands, again, after getting a couple of good days of rain, it should be, unfortunately, relatively dry there over the next few days. Okay, now we talk about this disturbance. And we're looking at the GFS model for you right now. Actually, this is the NAM model, isn't it? So let's get back over to the GFS. And let me fire this up. We're going to take a look at this a couple different ways, and we're going to look at all the ensemble products as well. Again, if you haven't done it as of yet, if you wouldn't mind doing me a huge favor and clicking that like button for me right now, I'd absolutely appreciate it. So we'll go back over to the GFS, okay? And what you're going to see out of the GFS is a very disorganized area of showers and storms and some windy conditions. And we'll look at the winds coming up as well. But the GFS does not try and wrap this up in the Northwest Caribbean. Now, we'll see how this plays out. Remember, the GFS was behind compared to the Euro on developing Debby. It ultimately had a better track, but it was days behind the European model trying to develop this. So we can't discount the potential for this trying to wrap up as it gets a little bit closer to Nicaragua, Honduras, Belize, and then Quintana Roo there on across the Yucatan. If it doesn't develop in the Caribbean, it could potentially develop in the southwest side of the Gulf of Mexico, but there are even some models that try and spin it a little bit farther up to the north. But the bottom line is, you can just see a very wet, sloppy forecast where rains and potential flooding would be the biggest issues from Cancun all the way down to Panama City, okay? Again, on the northern side, more passing showers with some wind for places like Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. Let's take a look at the winds, and I'll put those into motion for you as well. Just a little bit easier to drop off, again, that formation zone. I mean, obviously here, just highlighting Debby, Again, we're going to get some winds in that 40, 50 mile an hour range, and that north turn will be pushing the water inland here. South is okay because the offshore winds won't lead to an additional higher storm surge, but north, it's going to be a problem. But that's what Debbie looks like there. And again, you know, in the GFS model, it's just kind of bobbling back and forth and probably getting a little bit stronger as it stays in the open waters over the next 24 to 48 hours. Back to our disturbance in the Caribbean. Again, over the next few days, we can see the progression here, but we just don't get anything really trying to wrap up. It'll be kind of a windbag, right? It's going to blow some 30, 35 mile an hour winds, I believe, but does this truly become the next tropical system? Well, the GFS doesn't have it in the Caribbean. There's a potential as it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. Let's take a look at that vorticity product. You know, I love to show you guys that, and then we'll look at our ensemble members as well. So let me switch back over here. Again, this vorticity product, it's a way I use to analyze things as well. It's basically spin in the lower levels of the atmosphere. It's not at the surface, but it gives me an idea of where the models are trying to give us a little broader twist. And those can be focal points, right? The GFS is quite low in latitude here. I want you to notice that. Here it comes. Notice that it takes it right over Belize. It's going to take just a second to fully load it up, so there's going to be some jumps in the model here, but we can clearly start to see it right over Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, Belize, and eventually actually just right into the northern sides of Mexico. All right, now this is the deterministic model of the GFS, right? We can look at those ensemble members coming up, but the deterministic model really drives us through Central America, a fair amount of land interaction, but obviously heavier rain here the next several days, but doesn't really truly try and get something to go. That's what it looks like there. On the ensemble members, you're not going to see much more than that, to be quite honest. We really have only one that tries to wrap up something in the Gulf of Mexico and bring it into Texas. Obviously, this is Debbie, actually deepening a little bit over the next 48 hours before it goes back on shore. Then we look down here, you'll see a couple of signals here or there, but nothing that really pops off on the GFS model. And then eventually, as it crosses the Yucatan, then we do get one wrapping back up here in the western side of the Gulf of Mexico. Not much to it as of yet, okay? On the European model, I'm gonna let this run one more time, but you get a preview of what it's trying to bring in about a 12 to 14 day time frame. Here's the beginning of the loop. There's Debbie getting stronger. One or two signals, again, kind of moving into Nicaragua and Honduras, and then nothing developing here in the European model out of that disturbance. But deeper down the road, we just have a potential for more active weather on the European overall, especially for the Western Atlantic. And again, typically the GFS is the one that signals more activity 2 weeks down the road, but it's the European model, and it's been that way basically for all of August. So again, here as we get into next week and into the 10-day, 12-day time frame, we'll keep an eye on things, but that far down the road, there's nothing to put your finger on. Just in a broad perspective, the European model keeps it a bit more active. So for now, talking about that disturbance in the Caribbean, here are the areas that could be potentially affected. Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, okay, but not extremely significantly. A little bit more concerned about Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, Belize, and portions of the Yucatan for very heavy rainfall. 100 to 150 millimeters of rain, that's 4 to 6 inches, and some winds that could be pushing 30 to 40 miles an hour. This should at least, if anything, develop heavier tropical downpours and gusty winds, even if we don't get a low-level center of circulation. So I'll be monitoring these areas over the next several days and that potential, development in the Western Caribbean or even into the southwest side of the Gulf of Mexico. But if you live in these areas, you're going to expect a wet forecast and potentially enough rain to cause some flash flooding issues. So please check in with your local officials for anything regarding that. Again, we've already said goodbye to Debbie, the D-name storm. It is Ernesto, which will be the 5th named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. Could that be from that disturbance in the Caribbean? It's plausible. We'll see how it plays out. And there are other disturbances, of course, down the road that could be a problem as well. Doing some boating outside. I hope you're not doing any boating inside. Here are the wave heights and the directions. Obviously, up the United States East Coast, up the Gulf Stream, it's going to be extremely rough conditions. We'll still have some easterly swells across portions of the Bahamas. I do want you to notice that we are going to have higher winds and obviously rougher seas follow this disturbance into the Northwest Caribbean and portions of the Gulf of Mexico after it's been relatively quiet and tranquil with high pressure built in right now. And then behind this, we should actually get just a little bit of a break across the Lesser Antilles. Still going to have relatively strong easterlies, but might see those sea conditions relax just a little bit there as we get into the weekend, kind of in between those tropical waves. But again, through at least Friday and Saturday and the approach of the next tropical wave, we're still going to have some strong winds and some kicked up surf and sea conditions. Friends, you know, you can follow me across all social media, not just on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, where we do some exclusive content, X, Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video, myMediaMundo@gmail.com. Of course, you have a specific question about the forecast, you can drop it in the comments section below, and I'm happy to answer that as well. Again, thank you for liking and subscribing. You have a great rest of your Tuesday. I'll see you tomorrow with the latest forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, right here at Meteo Mundo.